What's up, Nitro C Nerds here, and this is day 3 of spending the week with the OFNA Hyper 7. If anybody is new to this series or this channel, essentially I'm just rolling film on ad hoc footage as I go through and do, I guess, somewhat of a rebuild. I really wouldn't even call it a rebuild right now. It's just a different phase of a project that we have going on, and this project right here is called Project Hyper 7 Hell Yeah, which is the next iteration toward building what I hope and what I plan to be the absolute baddest Hyper 7 that ever was. So at this point I'm going to check out the center diff mount and the brake system. I'll tell you, whether or not I incorporate much, if any, of it, it sure is a thing of beauty. And as you can see, it uses a spider diff. And as I've been doing, I want to compare it to the stock setup for the TQ. Right off the bat, I noticed that it uses CNC bushings as opposed with these plastic ones right here that come with the TQ Sport. That is very nice right there. The posts themselves are identical. One of the things I really like is the CNC top plate right here. I mean, that is just slick. We'll see. It's I don't know. I think it's going to be heavier than the stock, but let's go ahead and find out. I mean, unless it's like grossly heavier, I'm gonna use this bad boy. The CNC one is 0.15 ounces. And the stock one is 0.20 ounces. Rock and roll. These posts here, they are identical. The rest of it I'm going to save. It's just setup testing. When I get to that point, I'll test out the spider diff. These brakes, you know, I mean, I know for a fact, because I weighed them, they're heavier than this stock. And I don't know, having dual brakes on each side, I don't really think there's a whole lot of advantage to that. I mean, I understand technically there is from a, bias perspective. However, if I ever have issues getting my brake bias I want on the Hyper 7, then I'll keep these in mind. However, I don't know about you guys, but I know when my Hyper 7 is screaming its ass off with that OS 25, I want these honkers right here to be the ones to stop the drivetrain. Before I implement any more changes, though, I do want to give it a quick test run because, I did change, the top plate, the shock tower, the Ackerman, the chassis brace, sway bar, things such as that. So I need to get a quick feel for it. And so my intent here is not to necessarily test anything out with that. I just want to make sure that nothing is way off. Excuse me, because if it is, then it just narrows down the things that I need to troubleshoot. I like it. Alright, so we're at day 4 now. There's been a lot of ambiguity with respect to the chassis, the Hyper 7 PCR Pro versus the TQ Sport, at least based on the research that I've done. I've seen a lot of conflicting information. In the event some guy years from now was wanting to find this information out, hopefully you've stumbled across this video and you can thank me, because I'm going to tell you the facts. First of all, the PCR Pro has a Hyper 7L stamped on the bottom. L stands for long. The biggest difference would be that this chassis here is approximately 4 millimeters longer than this one. And again, I'm using digital calipers for this. Additionally, it is approximately 3/4 of a millimeter thinner. And it's difficult because there's different areas to where you can measure it, but I measured at certain points throughout, and the mean difference was 1/2 millimeter. As for the weight, the PCR Pro one is 10 grams lighter, or 1/2 ounce lighter than this, and as for the thickness, they are the same. and that is 3 millimeters thick, not 4. And I emphasize that because I've read a lot where both chassis, people say are 4 millimeters thick. Again, I'm just basing it off what I see. So one of our subscribers, Seymour As, who is actually the gentleman that turned me on to this PCR Pro kit, so I cannot thank him enough. And if you're enjoying this series, reach out to him and thank him as well, because he is the guy that told me about this PCR Pro kit. He's a longtime viewer. In fact, way back in the day, I remember he recommended these OFNA tires to me. And see, I remember that kind of stuff. He inquired about weighing the PBS versus the C-Hub. This is, of course, the PBS from the PCR Pro. This right here is the back clip, the C-Hub from the TQ Sport, which, for all intents and purposes, everything I'm seeing is the same with respect, to the layout. Few minor differences, but let's go ahead and weigh them. So I'm going to assume that the pillow ball is much heavier. 1 pound, 6.75 ounces. And then the C-Hub, I'm going to have to put the drive shaft on there, 1 pound, 5.15 ounces. So I've decided I'm just going to cherry pick a few things off of here, because what I want to do eventually is I'm just going to pick this rear clip up, put it on the buggy, and run like front clip C-Hub, rear clip pillow ball. I spoke with a gentleman, and he said back in the day that's what he would run when he had this PCR, so it'll be interesting to try out. But there's some things on here that I want to take off for now. Let's ditch this chassis brace here, 0.60 ounces, and kick it with this one right here, 0.40 ounces. Alright, so I got the new rear clip, or put the rear clip together, I guess, with some new components. New chassis brace, new shock tower, which helped the issue I had with the shocks using the new standoffs. I put new hinge pins in the rear, the inner at least. And I'm also using some hard springs in the rear. And these are actually the hard springs for the Savage X 4.6. Alright, so this is going to be the end of day 4, and tomorrow morning we're going to take it out to the track, and of course I'll definitely get some footage of that. Additionally, tomorrow will be the last time I run it with this crappy radio box, I hope, because I got my flat pack in today, so tomorrow we're going to do some pretty interesting changes to it. But for now, let's go ahead and weigh it in. When we first started this project, we were 6 pounds, 10.75 ounces. Then we got down to 6 pounds, 10.05 ounces. Now we are at 6 pounds, 9.60 ounces. So we've lost an ounce and a quarter. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great day.